today we're going to be putting in almost all of the colors in our final tree. So let's analyze the colors in the tree to determine what colors we are seeing so we have a better idea on what we need to mix together. Now the green in these leaves is not intense. Therefore, there is going to be a combination of tints and tones. The green hue we are seeing also has this bluish quality to it and almost a turquoise quality as well. So when we mix this green, we will want more blue than yellow. Let's begin by mixing our first light value green by mixing our light yellow, ultramarine blue, a little bit of cyan blue, and this time to give it that hint of a little bit of turquoise green, add in a little bit of that leaf green in there. Add in water until you get a nice middle tone value for this specific hue. And as always, place it on your scrap paper to see how dark or light it is, and then add water to lighten it or add more pigment to darken. When you begin painting, use your rounded brush. The leaves on this tree have tapered ends, not like the bold rectangular marks we saw on the trees on the right. So since we have different looking leaves, that is why we are using a different rounded brush. Wet the rounded brush by dipping it into the pigment and spin the brush, swirling the bristles as you move it off the palette to help form your bristles back into a nice fine point. When painting this tree, you must pay attention to the direction of the leaves. The leaf directions will help imply the three-dimensional form of this tree. Neglecting to have your marks follow the direction we are seeing will make your own tree looking flat and chaotic. So as always, avoid putting this, these marks down too fast. You always want to analyze what you're seeing first and then paint everything in so you're painting what you see, not what you think you see. So as you're painting around this tree, look at the leaf direction, the angle of every leaf, the size of each leaf mark, and then the spacing between one leaf to another, because this will constantly change throughout the entire tree. So make every mark intentional, analyze the reference photo before you make your mark. That way you have confidence that with each mark you're making, it's going to look most realistic. Same thing applies with this tree, making those little mark families. So pressing harder where you see larger leaves, pressing lighter where you see medium-sized leaves, and then putting in those little tiny specks of leaves that are like the little stragglers that could be considered like the little children in our leaf family. As you're putting this color down, if you're noticing that it's extremely darker than the previous layer of green that you already have, then you're going to need to lighten it with more water. Now, anytime you paint in a color and you realize, oh no, it is too dark, you can take a dry paper towel and blot that wet pigment off before it has a chance to fully dry. If you have a section that's really, really dark and you're noticing, oh my gosh, it's already dry, how do I remove it? Just take a clean, damp brush, put the clean water on that area to kind of loosen up the pigment, and then take a wet or dry paper towel and blot that pigment off. It's not going to get rid of everything, but it will at least lighten the value in that section. Just be sure that whenever you're taking that clean, damp brush and you're swiping it over a previously dry painted area, that you're not wiping that brush too much on the paper, because you don't want the fibers of the paper to lift up. And friendly reminder, we're trying to pay attention to shapes, so make sure you're not painting over any of your highlights. The next layer of leaves we will be adding in today will be a slightly darker, bluer tone than the one we previously applied. If you've run out of paint, remix the combination of light yellow, ultramarine blue, cyan blue, and a touch of that leaf green, and then add in a lot more of the ultramarine blue, because the ultramarine blue will dilute the intensity more since ultramarine is a dull hue. Now, before painting this next color on, you have to make sure that this previous layer of leaves we just put in is fully dry. For this painting, we're focusing on using the technique wet on dry. Therefore, do not paint in a section of leaves next to an area that is still wet, because then these pigments of those areas will bleed into one another and you will not get that nice crisp leaf separation like we're seeing here in the reference photo. So before doing the second layer, make sure your first layer of leaves that you've painted is completely dry. Do not rush the process. If it's still slightly damp, get up, walk around your house, grab a drink, pet your dog, make a cup of tea, do something nice for a family member. Then come back and paint once this previous layer is dry. When you are able to paint this more bluish green in, make sure that you are repeating the same process we previously did. So I am paying attention to the value placement of the specific hue in my reference photo, the direction the leaves are growing in, the sizes of those leaves, and the spacing between these leaves. As you paint, also squint your eyes at the reference photo to get rid of the detail and to look at the mass areas of value. Then squint your eyes at your own painting. How do these value shapes match up? Does the darker value green match the value shape for this green in the reference photo? If it's not enough, add in more marks to match the value shape you see when you squint your eyes. If you're noticing that you may be missing that middle value in there, add in some water to the pigment you're currently working on and fill in the gaps with the middle value to help create a larger range of values, which will only make your tree look more three-dimensional. The last green we will be mixing for this tree is more of a dark blue with a hint of green in it than it is actually a green. We also see this color in the darkest values in our grass right below this tree. So to mix this color, we're going to combine ultramarine blue, Prussian blue in about equal proportions, then add a touch of light yellow to make it a little bit more green, and then to really darken this color, we're going to add a touch of black to make it a very, very nice, rich, dark bluish green. Using your rounded brush, apply this dark bluish green into the core shadow sections of this tree. As before, pay attention to the value mass shape this dark color creates. Pay attention to the direction the leaves that the colors are growing in, the spacing between each leaf, and how big each leaf is. The more attention to detail you give to this tree, the more realistic your tree will appear. And because this tree is closer to us, we want to spend more time putting in the detail, because things that are closer to you in a painting show more detail than things that are further back. So because this tree is closer to us, take the time to put in all the detail now so your tree will pop forward, it'll look amazing, and you get to show off all of this great skill. Now I'm just going to jump ahead. I finished the tree and I'm going to show you how to put this dark bluish green in the water below the grass, but also in the grass. You'll notice that we're kind of missing those really deep dark values in the grass itself. So I've gone back to my angular brush, since that's the brush that we are using in that section. And I'm just going to be painting in these last few bits of grass in the core shadow area to really deepen the value and pull out this, and actually not to pull out the darker values, but to create more of a wider range of values to really make this grass look more three-dimensional. So that's going to be it for this painting session. In the next video, we're going to learn how to finish painting in the trunk of that tree, and then our reversing painting will be complete. So good luck and have some happy painting.